Welcome to the March 18th, 2025 meeting of the City Property Committee. I now call this meeting to order. Please be advised that FATV is conducting an audio and video recording of this meeting for public broadcast. I ask that anyone else in the audience who is recording this meeting to please identify themselves for the record now by standing and stating your name and city of residence. All right, seeing none. At this time, I ask that all electronic devices be placed into silent mode.
Thank you.
This evening, we have Councillors Boschman and Cragen and myself, Van Hazigen, in attendance. And now we'll do public comment. I invite anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to please approach the podium, identify yourself by name and address, and identify the agenda item on which you wish to speak. And then you may speak on it for no more than 2 minutes. Does anyone wish to speak? All right, seeing none. Now, before us this evening, we have 2 items on our agenda. The first is Order 5825, order that the mayor be and is hereby authorized to enter into an extension for the deed restriction set forth in the deed for the property located at 21 Market Street from the City of Fitchburg dated December 2nd, 2020, recorded in the Worcester North Registry of Deeds in Book 9806, page 155, originally to Y&M Home Solutions LLC, and thereafter in a deed dated April 28, 2022, and said recorded in said registry in Book 10319, page 351, currently in the name of Luis A. Hernandez, said deed restriction requiring the building permit for the rehabilitation of the premises to be ordained within 9 months from the date of the original deed, which is December 2nd, 2020, and the complete rehabilitation and construction of the premises within 18 months of the deed. Said dates to be extended as follows. Application for a building permit to be no later than August 20th, 2025. Completion of the rehabilitation of the premises no later than August 20, 2026. And that the mayor be further authorized to enter into any and all agreements to effectuate the terms of this order. So with us tonight we have Director of Community Development, Liz Murphy, and we also have the Ward 6 Ward Councillor, Derek Cruz, here just to talk on this issue. So, Ms. Murphy, could you just please give us a real quick explanation of what's going on here and what we're trying to accomplish?
Will do. So this property was sold back in 2020, and it did not get rehabbed as proposed. I believe it sold subsequently, and those current owners are interested in rehabbing it, but they need an extension to do that.
So when it sold in 2020, the city sold the property, but we sort of put in a clawback clause where if it didn't get developed, we could take it back to make sure it went to someone who would develop. 2020, yes. If everybody remembers, and the world went crazy and nothing happened. So the original seller sold it to someone else, but it was still subject to that original clawback restriction.
Correct.
So we're just looking to basically move up that restriction to dates which are current, basically.
That's my understanding. I'm not sure if Councilor Cruz would have anything else to add that might shed more light on that.
Sure. Thank you, Director Murphy. That's pretty much it for the most part. What I will say is that I have been working with Mr. Hernandez, the current property owner, for some time now. And they have been diligent. I had to go back to the drawing board several times through meetings with the ZBA to meet the parking requirements of the zoning ordinance. They're now going to build a garage on the first floor of the building, and we've taken a considerable amount of time to get to this point. Everybody has, all parties involved, and we're close to a solution that works. Now we just need this extension to get shovels in the ground, so Mr. Hernandez can see through his investment with the city. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
So here we have Anthony Hernandez with us on Zoom. Mr. Hernandez, would you like to add anything about the project and the proposed change to the deed restriction?
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My father, Luis Hernandez, is unavailable to join the call, but I'm here to speak for him. Yes, we want to appreciate the extension if possible. We would like to get the shovels in the ground, like Dirk mentioned. And, we'd like to continue with working with the community and working with the board just to make sure we get that work started, and hopefully we could get the building rehabilitated in order for new members of the community to join the town of Fitchburg, so that way there's more people populated in the town as possible.
All right, thank you. Do any members of the committee have any questions or comments they'd like to make?
Yeah, a couple. Was it Sally have one?
I don't, no.
Councilor Boschman?
My question, is that going to be a single-family home?
That will be a two-family, and that was a lot of some of the holdup was getting it to meet the parking requirements for a two-family. Like I said, they're not going to build the garage, and we have a solution that works for the city. It's my understanding the city has no interest in taking the property back, especially since we're so close to having a nice new two-family in the community.
Let me ask you a question, since you're dealing with Mr. Hernandez. What value is that going to bring to the neighborhood, where the neighborhood is already congested? What value? On one hand, if we tore it down, property values go up. So the city doesn't lose, because you're making the neighborhood better. And really, that house shouldn't have been sold to the city. I agree with my friend Tom. That should have been torn down. And my argument is he had 90 days to pull a permit back in 20, and the guy didn't do it. And they let it go, and then they bought it after the 180 days. And when they called me up, because I called you up, because he called me up asking for my help, and I said to him, Jesus, right in the deed, how can you miss it? It was right there. I don't believe it's adding value to the neighborhood. I believe you're not adding value, you're taking away value. You're putting more people into an area, and this house is right between a two-family, if I'm not mistaken, on the right two-family, on the left two-family, and then right in the middle, it sticks out. And you're going to put a two-family in there. How many bedrooms on each pillar?
I'll have to divert that one to their engineer and to Mr. Hernandez, but what I will say is in Fitchburg and in the Commonwealth, or really all across the country, we desperately need housing. So when you ask me a question about value, that's what I think we have additional housing for families to call Fitchburg home. But I'll let Mr. Hernandez or John, the engineer, answer the question about the rooms.
No, before I go to him, let me explain to them. I understand the Commonwealth needs housing. Liz, you weren't here. You were here in Clegon. Well, I lived in Clegon. Mm-hmm. And what did we have? We had nothing but problems up there in Clegon because we had multi-family houses close to one another. And then it became a haven for drug lords to come up there and live and peddle their drugs. And a lot of good people left the area because of the problems we were having in that area. And it was, I said it many times on this table, you sat here, it was in the front page, Knott Street, Fairmont Street, Plymouth Street, Clegon Street. Go ahead.
I would say that that certainly did happen, but that was more around disinvestment, landlords not keeping up with their properties and not really caring about their properties. I'm not sure that this is that situation. This is somebody proposing to put a two-family in a property, a street where it already exists, that building already exists, and there are other two families around. I agree with you that it's a congested neighborhood. I wouldn't suggest that they increase the number of units there, but I do think it appears appropriately sized.
So, Councilor, would you mind if I just respond? I don't want to interrupt you.
No, that's okay, sir. You're the chair, and you go ahead.
So what I will say, that this is an existing building, and it's an existing vacant building that has been vacant for some time. It already has 2 units. The lower unit, the lower floor, was previously used as a bar.
Right.
Which doesn't match current need in the market. And this is a better neighborhood without a vacant building, because that was the real drawback to Cleghorn and other dense neighborhoods of the city, is when you had, like Director Murphy mentioned, neglected properties that become vacant, become magnets for vandalism, graffiti, nefarious activity. That's where you get problems. When you have properties that are invested in, that's a good thing for the neighborhood. So we're taking a sore for the neighborhood, a vacant property, with a use that doesn't match the rest of the property, because this is a residential neighborhood. There used to be neighborhood bars. We don't have that anymore, and it's not necessarily something the city wants to encourage. The property owner has a plan to invest in the property, to fix up, to make it habitable, to make it an asset to the neighborhood, including getting rid of the commercial unit, getting rid of the bar, making it a residential apartment, because we need housing. The other benefit to the city is that if you have investment in a property, they pay more property taxes. We generate more revenue for the city services through a property that receives investment, and we lose it if we tear it down. And it also costs money to tear it down. I mean, just for a property this size, my guess would be $30,000, $50,000. Is that reasonable?
At least. Well, I'm not exactly sure the cost of demo now because prices have changed so much, but I would say
But
it's 50
it's
because it's a tight site.
Yes, it's on that magnitude, and that's money that we don't have to spend to detract from the city's tax base, to take away housing that we could be providing. Instead, it's a much better asset to the city to allow a property owner to invest in it, to fix it up, to create more housing, to make it a better asset to the neighborhood. That's my 2 cents, but you can continue. Thank you, Councilor.
Oh, you made me forget.
If in that case,
Listen, I understand your idea, but let me also point out to you, if it's a 3-bedroom, and assuming that 3 kids, it's $7,000 per kid. It's and 2 floors, 7,000 times 6 is 42,000. You're not going to collect $42,000 on that 2-family. You're probably lucky if you collect. I'll go 10. I'll go 10,000.
Point of order. So first time I've done this to you, Councillor Boschman, and let me just explain. You're talking about the per pupil costs and expenditures for Fitchburg Public Schools, which is not part of the scope of this agenda item. For myself, and again, Councillor Van Hazinga, you get to adjudicate on this, but I would like us to remain on the actual piece of property that is these folks who are good enough to come to this meeting are desirous of improving, to improve that neighborhood. I do remember the bar that was there. I know that there were problems associated with it, but we cannot tar any future purchases with the history that has nothing to do with them. And that's all I have.
So if I may interject, our decision here tonight is whether or not to extend this clawback provision for the original deed to the current deed and change the timeline so that we still have the right to take the property back if this development doesn't happen. We're not here to approve or disapprove the development proposal because that's already been approved by the Board of Appeals. That's the body that governs whether or not we should do that.
Right.
What we're looking at is whether or not we should retain a right to take the property back if it doesn't get developed.
and Mr. Chair, if I may, essentially it was either we can release the clause or we can extend, and I think that extending it is a fair compromise. It ensures that the developers are still held accountable in a reasonable amount of time, and it still gives the city the option to claim it back if those conditions aren't met. So rather than releasing the full condition of the deed with the administration, we determined it was best to just extend.
So that is correct. If you want to maintain some right for the city to take it back, we need to approve this to extend the clawback provision. Otherwise, we don't have a clawback provision. They just own it.
If I don't say, well, I'm going to get beat if I say no, it's going to be 2-1. But if I say no, and I convince you and me to say no, we don't want, I'm just saying it,
Yep.
we don't want to take it back. We want the city to do what's right. We want the city to take the property back.
But we're not deciding that tonight.
That's not what's being decided.
So if it's put before, so the mayor through the Department of Community Development could put forth a proposal to take it back because they have not met the requirements, but they are not doing so. That's not before us. We are not deciding whether or not to take it back. We're deciding whether or not to extend our right to take it back.
Oh, it's not right to take it back.
Yes.
All right. I give the floor. Go ahead.
Are there any other more comments or questions on the matter?
Motion to approve?
I'll second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Are you opposed, Council?
I'm opposed.
Okay, thank you. And it passes 2-1.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, committee members. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you, sir.
All right, the second matter before us is Order 03724, that 84 North Street, more fully described as the Fitchburg Assessor's Map 44, Block 110, Lot 0, be declared as surplus property.
So this is a holdover from our last property committee meeting. And at that time, which was quite some time ago, I think, we had discussed this parcel, which is near the university on North Street. The university was interested in the parcel. They wanted to put it together with a couple other parcels that they have and maybe create some parking. You held it because we discovered, I wasn't aware at that prior meeting, that there's a different way that we can convey property to another quasi-governmental agency, and so that's why it was held while I figured that out and come back to you. But then I heard from the university's new president that they are no longer interested in that property. So there isn't any specific interest on this property. We certainly can declare it surplus and sell it with a realtor, which is what we'd have to do. But like I said, there is not an interested party.
All right,
We could also withdraw the whole petition and submit it again when we're ready.
so just to remind everybody, this is a very small lot. It's on North Street, just south of Green Street. It is 4,712 square feet, according to Assessor's records, and it has 36 feet of frontage, which makes it very difficult to develop. The properties on either side are owned by the FSU Foundation to the north and south. Looking at the zoning ordinance, it is zoned it's located in the FSU zoning district, which has a minimum lot area of 5,000 square feet, so this property is too small to be developed. It also has a minimum lot frontage of 50 feet. We only have 36 feet, so it's too small to be developed. So we don't have many options.
Right. The only interest, maybe, I haven't reached out to them, but Crown Fried Chicken could maybe be interested in expanding their parking lot. That would be the only, or an abutter wanting to expand their yard.
So there are some abutters to the west on Snow Street. It doesn't really line up perfectly. The lot lines don't go straight through. It's
Yeah.
kind of straddles two lots, so maybe somebody would be interested. I'm not sure if we would get a whole lot of money for it, but
Yeah,
we
hard to say.
have the city treasurer here. Ms. Horn, would you like to add anything?
Good evening. So this would have to be deemed surplus property, and we would need to sell it through the real estate process, meaning we would have to provide the excess equity back to the tax owner or the property owner.
Okay, so it was taken for non-payment of taxes. So with the change in the laws regarding foreclosed properties like that, we would have to sell it through a realtor and then pay the difference between the money originally owned or owed on the taxes and the sale price back to the property owner. It's likely not to sell for much, I imagine. It's very low utility. What do you think is the best way forward? Do we just sit on it and hold it? Is it best to put it up for sale? I mean, what?
So since we took it, if we keep it for ourselves, then we likely have to have an appraisal done and give that any excess equity owed to the property owner back to them.
Okay,
So we would take money from our city coffers.
So we have to pay to get the appraisal done and then pay out anyways without getting limited benefit.
Yep.
So it's probably the best route, I guess, to sell it or declare it surplus to.
That would be my recommendation. Yeah.
All right, any comments or questions
I
from
got a
councilors?
question.
Yes, Councilor
You got
Bosch.
a question?
No, go. you
My
can wait.
question is, we had this property over 10 years. So how can you come back and tell me this property was sitting for 10 years in our treasurer's land? When did we take it? Because there was a house on that, if I'm not mistaken.
We foreclosed on it on September 29th of 2022.
September 29, 2022?
It may have been in a tax title process for a long time before the foreclosure. Maybe that's why you have such a long memory of this. I'm not really sure. I'd have to go back and do the research.
Because I would say give it to Habitat for Humanity.
Well, I think the issue is that we can't, if we give it away, we have to pay the difference between the money owed and the value of the property that's established through an appraisal. So,
What would be the difference if we gave it to Fitchburg State College?
well, we're not giving it to Fitchburg
The
State College.
the petition going on her tonight, it says give it to the,
No, the petition is to declare it surplus.
yeah, we have surplus, and then it's going to them tonight to bring it up
No.
for $1. No foundation?
No. That's incorrect. At one time, the college did have interest in the property. They have informed us that they no longer are interested in acquiring the property. So if we keep it, we have to pay the difference between its value and the money originally owned in the tax title. Or we can try to sell it, and the difference in the sales price and the original money owed would be paid to the original owner.
So there is some question about whether or not it would be viable as maybe additional parking. If that was the case, obviously, we would have to go through that exercise of having it appraised. I'm not sure how many spaces you could get. I don't know if you want to entertain that as an alternative, or if we're just throwing something at you that kind of complicates the whole conversation.
It does, but the city also doesn't have any uses adjacent or
Yeah,
close to
that's
it. I mean, the closest use is the fire station down the street, and they have parking available there. It may be appealing to a neighboring property owner for parking, but that's a private matter. I don't think that's something the city really needs to get involved in.
Right.
Or they could use it for the parking. The green park, what is it, the one on North Street, the park right there? It's not that far away.
Yeah, the Mama Fitz Park.
Yeah, Mama Fish Park.
Yeah.
So if that would be the case, we would have to get an appraisal and basically pay for the property, even though we already own it.
What is?
I know.
Who made these rules? Our wonderful Democrats again?
No, this was
Point of order.
a court case.
Yep. This actually started at the federal level and trickled down. So it was, but honestly, this protects us because it gives a date that you can't go back past. That's one of the protections for the city, is that they've established anything before this date, old rules, by this date, new rules.
So what happens if nobody buys it?
I believe after a year, we would have to put it up for auction.
So my understanding is correct me if I'm wrong, because I've been a little fuzzy on this part. If we sell it and we sell it at an amount that, the market says is maybe lower than what he would owe, so we have that much in, actually, no, let me go back. If we sell it, it's not likely that we're providing any equity unless we get a lot to that buyer. If we don't sell it but we retain it, then we do have to provide that difference between the appraised value and the taxes owed.
And we will still have to get an appraisal if we have to go the route of auction.
Yeah. But we don't have to get an appraisal when it's sold through a real estate agent, because they do a market study and they determine what the market can bear.
So I mean, if you put it up for sale for a year, it's a pretty strong indication of what its value is.
Yeah, that's true.
What are you telling me, put it up for sale?
Yeah. Councillor Craig, do you have any questions or anything to add?
I was actually going to ask if the laws have changed as regards cities retaining property and our tax liability in the last bit of time, and I'm thinking the viewers might find it helpful to hear why we are discussing this in these particulars. because cities have been put into a more responsible position when it comes to dealing with properties that have gone into tax lien, and that we actually would owe the original owner who neglected the property, didn't pay taxes, the difference between what we could get and what it's assessed at. So
I think just a very quick, like 30-second summary, if that's possible, would be beneficial, but we do have another committee meeting coming up at 6 o'clock, so this is something we could talk about for a couple hours.
We could, but the core of it is that if somebody owns properties and they've invested, they might have equity in that property, and that equity might be beyond what their tax liability was. So if somebody has a house that's worth $200,000, they owed $100,000 in taxes, and we took that building because of it. Now, if it's really worth $200,000, we can sell it for $200,000, and they should get that difference because that was their equity beyond what we owed. The city should only be taking the back taxes and any costs associated with the sale of that property, and that is a part of it too. So if we incur costs that are related to the sale of that property, we will be able to recoup those costs before any equity goes back to the owner. But that does seem to be a fair way of doing things, and there have been cases, and not in Massachusetts necessarily, but in other parts of the country where much more aggressive tax collecting departments have taken taxes for much smaller amount, or taken properties for much smaller amount that have much greater value. So
right.
That's the concept.
Yes,
I
Councilor
just wanted
Bushman.
to make one correction. I'm not going to talk, but I want to tell you, underneath the MBTA, the thing we passed for the train station,
Okay.
you don't need 5,000 square feet. All you need is 4,200, and you meet the requirement down there. Am I right, Liz?
That is true in that one little section. The lot size has changed. I actually wasn't sure if it was 4,200, but
4,250.
Is there still a frontage requirement?
there is still a frontage.
What's the frontage required? Is it still 50
That
feet?
I'd have to go look, yeah. I don't know that we changed the frontage requirements as a part of that. Density, yes.
Okay. All right. So we're at the time where we should wrap up the meeting. Do I have a motion in this matter?
Well, our hands are tied. I'll make the motion.
And what's your motion?
I guess we have to sell it.
So I'll take that as a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
We have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 3-0, it carries. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, second that.
Any opposition? All right, we're adjourned. The Economic
Thank you, Sally.
Development
Thank you.
Committee will
Thank
be
you.
coming up shortly. Thank you very much.
Thank you.